I always like to share the journey because I think a lot of times you meet Native people and we all have a story.
Of course.
And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we never really fit in to the society. Like we're the smallest minority group trying to figure out like who the hell are we? Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of I think our journey. And I think with this, we're meeting people that are doing so many incredible things, but it's so interesting. Everybody started with this. Like, I haven't met one Native person that said, oh yeah, I grew up, my parents were doctors, we are all good. Like, I went to university, got a job in corporate America. Mm-hmm. Not one Native person.
Right.
However, even against all that, people are doing incredible things. Like, we are the most resilient people.
Yes.
So I like to share that because then I want to hear your story.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing, by the way.
Yeah.
Jimmy Gomez, born in East Los Angeles, California, Boyle Heights. My mother raised me, single parent. Mm-hmm. My mom and my dad got divorced. I grew up in the projects of Dogtown in Boyle Heights. But my ray of light and my matriarch was always my grandmother.
And did she live with you guys?
She had her own spot, but she spent a lot of time with us.
Okay.
And I would spend a lot of time at her house. She's the person that taught me about our roots in Jerome, Arizona. She's the person that had the pride, the ultimate, power when it came to her native roots. Because she instilled that in me. She
Right.
never claimed LA, ever. It was a no-no to claim Los Angeles. She was anti-Los Angeles. Even though she lived here and she had her kids here, my mom and my uncle, her heart was always Jerome, Arizona. Proud Native woman. Resilient, strong, always being of service. But she taught...
Did she ever tell you about her story as a kid?
She did. She just told me about, the territories. Different territories. Prior to states, ladies and gentlemen, for those folks that are watching, territories were before states. Before you had Prescott and Scottsdale and Phoenix, Arizona, there was territories. My relatives are Hopi and Shoshone. So I learned a lot about her upbringing and our ancestors. Mm-hmm. Being a kid from LA, being a Chicano kid, Native kid, I wasn't enough. And I always felt like, well, where do I fit in? Because I wasn't born on the res.
Right.
They would pull my res card, my blood quantum card, like, you're not enough because you're not from the res, right?
Totally get it.
And because you didn't speak Spanish properly, you're not a real Mexican. You're not from Mexico. You don't have no connection to Mexico other than my grandfather being from Sonora, Mexico. And I just always struggled with identity.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling like I was enough. And so that's why I wrote this book about identity, which is important. It tells the story of me dealing with not feeling enough in my community. Dating outside of my race, mm-hmm. doing hip hop music, or creating, an opportunity to have a career through breakdancing, through rapping, through songwriting. It was hip hop culture that embraced me. Mm-hmm. So I found my tribe, for lack of a better word, within 3 people: myself, will.i.am, and Apple Diap, who in turn became Black Eyed Peas.
Right. So that was like the way that you navigated your way through, and you knew obviously you're a Native person like mm-hmm. I did, but yep. I think you just nailed it about. I mean, I think we even struggle with that today. Is that if you didn't grow up on the res, you're not a real Indian.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
It's crazy, and then you have the show about blood quantum, and the Indian card, and all these things that are terminology that's being thrown my way, and I'm like, wait a minute. I just want to represent.
Right.
So it's like learning about protocol and all these landmines that happen in Indian country so that it's like the crab in the bucket mentality.
Completely.
You try to do something and then somebody tries to pull your card and they try to bring you down because they're not, they're going through healing. Mm-hmm. They need healing in their life. There's something that's affecting them to bring the good medicine and positivity. And so I learned that. I learned about the landmines. I learned about protocol. I learned all these different ways to maneuver in Indian country and just be the best relative that I can be to represent and to inspire the youth. Because that's what my grandmother wanted from me, to inspire. It's one thing to be a musician and an artist and all the things that I do in my professional life, but how do I affect change, right? That's what my grandmother's about. She's about being of service, sometimes to her own detriment. Sometimes she would put others before herself, others before her health. I'll never do that because I learned that the hard way. I got diagnosed with cancer in 2014. And so I was putting my job, my professional life in front of my health. I didn't listen to my body. So when I went through my whole trauma of doing chemotherapy for 12 weeks, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, I also offset that with holistic healing to try to center myself and really understand ways to be a conduit of hope. And if I come out of this, I kept saying, Creator, if I come out of this, I'm going to change my ways of being. Instead of it being about me, I want it to be about we.
So let me ask you about that. So as Native people, I think we look at disease, in a little bit different way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously things happen to all of us, but I think we also look at it like it's a moment of pause and reflection to go, all right, what's out of balance here? And sometimes we can just be partying too hard and, obviously that's not good. But sometimes we're just doing what we're doing. What was your journey like when you started seeking out that higher knowledge that I think that we still possess as Native people? Like we have the ability, sometimes I don't think people understand that because we're on the land we're on, this is our land. And so our DNA, it communicates with this earth. Maybe if we went somewhere else it'd be different.
Yeah.
But within that, we get this medicine, we get this wisdom that probably a lot of people don't understand that we have as Native people. So when you went through that, did you have any reflection of what caused your body to get out of balance?
Well, it's testicular cancer, stage 2. No one had ever been diagnosed in my immediate family with cancer. So I don't really know where it came from because it was something that happened all of a sudden. And although it took a duration of 6 years for my tumor to grow, I didn't realize the impact that it had on me, not only in physically, but also mentally.
Right.
Because I was uncertain. I didn't know if I was going to survive this. I didn't know if the chemo was going to, do its job. And plus, I didn't want to just depend on Western medicine. I also wanted to try to find a way to connect my roots with it.
Right.
So I always had visions of my grandmother saying, stay connected to Mother Earth, stay grounded, stay rooted, keep your hands in the soil. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'm just giving you a play-by-play detail of what I went through while I was experiencing this trauma. And yes, our people come from years and years of intergenerational trauma, but my trauma came from when I battled cancer, right? Then when I defeated cancer in September of 2014, there was a higher purpose for me, higher frequency. And that frequency led me to Standing Rock. And when I went to Standing Rock and I stood in solidarity with my Standing Rock Sioux tribe, water protectors, and all the relatives and allies that came from all over the world, just to protect something as sacred as water from the local tribes in the Missouri River, and all the things that we stood in prayer to fight violence, negativity, and all the things that were happening at that time, water cannons being sprayed, dogs being unleashed. But through prayer and through positivity and through that good medicine, we were able to stand our ground. Yeah. So when I went to Standing Rock, I found a healing that was more powerful than chemotherapy.
So tell me about that. I mean, I know that I've heard you talk about it before, but how did it happen? I mean, you were there, obviously the energy of all of the people there, because I think when we're around other Native people, there's this like, whoa, there's this power. I mean, I feel it when I'm, with my Native brothers and sisters. I mean, I feel it here just with you, is that, like you just said, there's a higher frequency, because I think what we recognize is that this is a temporary situation. No matter what we do, this life is just a commercial, but we're still going to be here because we feel our ancestors here. But when did that happen for you? Like describe the moment that you were there.
Yeah. So I went to the camp and I heard the sacred circle and the drum, and Grandfather Drum was beating loud. and it was the chant, and it was the energy of the relatives, not just from North America and Canada, but from all over the world. Indigenous relatives that were from Australia, Aboriginal, from Tenochtitlan in Mexico, Yaqui, Nahuatl, Mexica. All these relatives were just there. And we were all just standing there, embracing the spirit. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was just there as Jimmy Gomez, not as Black Eyed Peas.
Right.
And I took my eldest son, Josh, with me, and we were just like there. We were holding hands in a circle, and I just felt the power of my grandmother saying, "This is where you need to be. This is your new journey," as a voice. And I don't speak for all of us. I only speak as one of us.
Right.
I never speak for all of us because I can't do that. But what I can do is just be the conduit of hope, be the bridge that connects pop culture because of what I do with the Peas, and bring Indian country along for this ride.
So what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to you when you think about, okay, here you are, you're a Native man, and you've got all these talents.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy talented.
Thank you.
I mean, here you've got a book, you've got this, you've got your music. I know there's more to come, but what does it mean to you when you think, okay, here I am, I'm here for this time? And like you're so connected with what your grandmother brought forth in you, and I can see just as a Native person that you're like, oh, boom, I'm here, right? What do you feel is really important that you have to share with the world?
Just letting kids know, on-res, urban, Native kids, kids from the barrios, kids from inner cities, male, female, LGBTQ, my two-spirit sisters and brothers. I just want you to feel proud. Proud of who you are. Proud of where you come from. Proud to be the person that is enough for you. And not allow any negative frequencies to ever bring you down. Because that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need to empower our youth. I'm a father. I have 3 little ones. I have a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And what I want to do is always lead by example. Be the person that inspires my kids, and hopefully I can inspire millions of kids. Not just Native kids, everyone. Inclusion, mosaic, a mosaic of cultures represented.
Right.
Because I would be a hypocrite if I was like, oh, it's only got to be Native. No. We embrace everybody.
That's
I want to embrace
got us
everybody.
into this mess.
This is exactly. It's like we're not going to alienate. We're not going to, divide. We're going to bring together everyone. I'm part of a group that is a multicultural group. My partner, Will.i.am, is from East LA, African American kid from East LA. My partner, Apple Diap, is from the Philippines. He's Filipino and Black. Myself, I'm Native and Mexican. So we empower a mosaic of culture. Why not embrace everybody?
Completely.
But I do it through a Native lens because that's what I know. So I only speak from the heart. I speak as candid and transparent as possible because I always want to lead with love. I always want to lead with transparency and honesty. I don't have anything to hide. And that's something that my grandmother taught me. She's like, yo, you got to speak whether it's uncomfortable and it may be like a little bit like, too upfront. I'd rather respect that.
Yeah, you have to speak your truth.
Speak my truth.
And I think what you really, what you're talking about is, this was what happened with the colonies that came in. I always call it the pyramid scheme, that the people on the top had worth, the kings and the queens and the nobles, and then everybody else on the bottom was not worthy.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you're nailing, is that the society at large, we still have bought into that.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't allow people to shine.
Well, it's systematically. You go into neighborhoods in Los Angeles, South Central, East LA, you see, you see a liquor store, check cashing place, and then you see a fast food place. And it's all systematically been zoned so that you go cash your check, then you go get some alcohol, and then you get some fried chicken or McDonald's or whatever.
Right.
Tacos, which
Right.
I love tacos. But, the reality is a lot of times that's not the most healthiest choice.
Right.
When you go to Pasadena, you see Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and vegan spots.
Right.
Hopefully, I hope that we can have more people bringing the ability to have organic foods in neighborhoods, in barrios, in inner cities. You know, bringing more oncology centers close to the different res around the U.S. and Canada. That's something that I try to do.
Well, and it's happening now. I mean, we have the whole indigenous food movement.
Yeah.
Where we're bringing in pre-colony food because why? It was what kept us really healthy and we lived for a really long time.
Exactly.
So what, I guess, now you're dropping a comic book.
Well, it's my third comic book.
But I mean a new one.
Yes, new one, yes.
You've got the new one coming up, which
Man.
is incredible.
Yeah, so this was the first one right here, Werewolf by Night, which I'm really proud of because it's the first iteration of its kind. It's the first time that we presented Jake Gomez, who's loosely based on me. I actually put my grandmother in the comic.
Take it out of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's look at it.
yep.
There we go. And then just talk about it.
Yeah, so Werewolf by Night. Huh? Good?
Yeah,
Good,
we're
yeah.
good, yeah.
So Werewolf by Night is loosely based on me, Jake Gomez, Jimmy Gomez, Hopi Mexican, and we brought him to Arizona, paying homage to my grandmother and her roots and our roots.
So cool.
JJ, Jet Juliana, that's my daughter's name, so we put my daughter in the comic. Red Wolf, which is one of the first native heroes from the Marvel Universe. We wanted to make him modern, not make him stereotype. We're not a monolith, you know.
Right.
So I wanted to like bring
He's not
Red Wolf.
speaking in one syllable
One
words.
syllable, you know, it's not very, yes, he has a very chiseled face, but he's not a, stone, what do you call it? Like so,
Stoic.
stoic,
I
yeah,
know. Well,
you know.
the stoic Indians, right?
So he's smiling. Look, Red Wolf actually smiles. So we
Wow,
brought
so
that
cool.
vibe. Wanted to bring the Billy from Predator vibe, like with the tactical suit.
Yeah,
I love that guy. Yeah, and I love the new Prey. Jane Myers,
too.
woohoo! Amber Mid Thunder, let's go. And so I brought my grandmother right here, in her living room, sipping her coffee. And when I was a kid, in this living room, of course it's fictional, but this is the living room based on my grandmother. She would say, from Los Angeles, California, give it up for Jimmy Gomez.
And then you
And I
get out there.
would be performing in her living room like it was a big stage. It was like, it would transform from Los Angeles to the Super Bowl. From Los Angeles to a stadium.
Well, Grandma saw you.
Yeah.
She saw you for what you really were
Yeah.
at that time, right? And
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways, that's carried you through your whole life. Because kind of talking about, not feeling like, and
Enough,
I get
yeah.
that because that's how I felt my whole life was, like I wasn't enough. But, there's always that one person that can carry you through. And I think in some ways, you're carrying that torch for this next generation. Maybe you're that one person that these kids are watching and going, you know what? He keeps telling me that I'm enough through all of these avenues. And you're going to be, maybe some of these kids, they only have their phone. And there you are. And you're bringing it through your comics, you're bringing it through your book on identity and through your story. And through all of those, it's like a ripple effect. And sometimes I don't think we realize that it could just be one phrase that somebody grabs onto, and that's exactly what I see you're doing.
Yeah.
Through what you're working on.
I get emotional thinking about the impact that my grandmother had because she didn't get to see me as a parent. She didn't get to see sober me. I've been sober for 15 years. Sorry guys, I'm like going
No,
into this
please.
emotional,
No, I
crazy
think-
world. It's all good, but it's real. Transparency, it's honesty, ladies and gentlemen. Honesty. She didn't get to see me as a Black Eyed Peas. She didn't get to see a lot of these wins. But most of all, she didn't get to see me represent for our indigenous communities. And that, for me, it's everything. I have no ulterior motives, ladies and gentlemen, other than to be a great representative, to be a great relative.
You are being that.
Yeah. And to represent my grandmother. Every time you see me on stage, every time you see me creating something that has a hint of our pride, hint of our celebration. It's coming from an honest and genuine place.
And I picked that up. And you know what? I do think your grandmother has seen it.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, maybe
She
maybe not here.
transitioned. She transitioned to the,
Yeah. But I think
great spirit in the sky.
I think she might be here right now.
Yeah.
Because I think that she's actually probably leading you more than you imagine. So I want to just ask you a couple more questions. This is so powerful, you guys. I mean,
Yeah, I got emotional.
I'm getting emotional, but it's beautiful. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is because I think a lot of times when somebody is really successful, like you've been, that they think, oh my gosh, you were just performing one time and boom, somebody discovered you, and
Yeah.
then the rest was just so easy. I want to hear a little bit about how because I know just in the few things I've done in my life that people don't see the behind the scenes. They they think it's easy, and especially in this generation, native or not native, people think, oh, I should be an overnight success. They don't see the struggle. They don't see the day-to-day. They don't see all of the no's and all of the slam doors, right? So tell us a little bit about that journey of how you actually became a well-known band. What was that like?
I mean, we met at 17 years old, myself, will.i.am, and Apple Diap in Los Angeles. We're Angelino kids. Apple came from the Philippines in 1989, met will.i.am. will.i.am and Apple went to a club called Ballistics when we were 17. It was a hip-hop club, like all ages.
Right.
I went to this club to represent my city, Rosemead, San Gabriel Valley. I moved from East LA to Rosemead, and we were just hip-hop dancers, and will.i.am was a rapper. So we became friends, and we built this family called Grassroots in 1993. We became a family of musicians, dancers, poets, songwriters, producers. And in 92.
Where did you show though? I mean, give us kind of like, okay, you got together.
Yeah, but we
And then-
weren't a group yet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We were just a family of creatives.
Okay.
Will and Apple had a group called Aban Clan, which were signed to Ruthless Records with Eazy-E in the early 90s. When Eazy-E passed away in 95, Will and Apple started this new thing. They asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. I was like, cool, let's do it. So we created Black Eyed Peas in 95. At that time, I was working at Disneyland,
Okay.
picking up horse manure and working as a custodial worker.
Okay, I thought you were going to say like,
No, I wasn't a character. I wanted to be a character, ladies and gentlemen. But I have a lot of love
totally see you do that.
I have a lot of love for Disney, and I know there's been bumpy roads, but I have to say the corporate structure of Disneyland taught me how my work ethic, being on time, not on Indian time.
Okay.
It's all
So
good.
there's that.
Being on time. I was getting a paycheck every Thursday, so I was able to facilitate my dream at night with Black Eyed Peas. I was paying for gas. I had my first car. And I loved just being part of this amazing environment, working at Disneyland. The happiest place on earth. And then at night performing with my crew, Black Eyed Peas. But we got a lot of no's at first. Well, what makes you guys think that you're gonna make it? We already have the Fugees. We already have a Tribe Called Quest. There's already a De La Soul, which I love. All those groups are my favorite groups.
Right.
But we're like, nah, but this is different. We're a multicultural group. But it wasn't about being multicultural. Multicultural is just about representing LA. So we did all these shows in Los Angeles, college shows, rock venues, and we had a live band. And so we got signed in 1997 to Interscope Records, thanks to Jimmy Iovine. And it was just me, Will, and Apple. We put out music. Our first album came out in 98 and didn't do so well, but it was critically acclaimed. In 1999, we put out another record, and Napster, which was the pirating service that
Right.
came in and started, bootlegging
Right.
albums.
I remember these guys.
And it was online. It was before Spotify and all the DSPs, before YouTube and all that, social media. And so we took a hit on our second album from sales.
Oh, because they came in
Yeah,
and basically
they
pirated. Okay,
yeah,
now
so
I
we
get
didn't
what
get
you're saying.
we didn't get to. And back then it was selling CDs. So you would go to Sam Goody or Virgin Megastore or Warehouse, which don't exist anymore, and you would actually buy a physical copy. There was no DSPs. There was no like Spotify or
Right,
Pandora.
right.
It was physical copies. And so in 2001, we started working on a new record. And we created a record called Elefunk. And we had worked with this artist who was part of a group who was transitioning from being in a group to being a solo artist. That artist being Justin Timberlake. He went from NSYNC, started talking about his solo career, and I was like, yo, I got this song called Where's the Love? I want to play it for you. Played it over the phone. I said, yo, we need a hook kind of like Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, Mercy, Mercy Me. So he sang it over the phone. He's like, yo, I got the perfect hook. People killing, people dying, children hurt, and you hear them crying. Would you practice what you preach? Or would you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 send some guidance from above. Because people got me questioning, where is the love, right? So that became the anthem of that record, right? This is before we had
That's
any
incredible.
type of success. We had minor success, but global success where it was like this song hit number one, it was Where's the Love? But it took from 1995 until we got to Where's the Love in 2003 when we released Elefunk to get to that major attention. And it was that frequency, that song about bringing people together and asking the question, where's the love within humanity?
And that's kind of your theme now.
I mean, it's
You're
part
living
of,
it.
yeah, it's part of everything. My motto, my mantra is like, the love is here. I want to share love that my grandmother inspired me to have for everyone.
So was there ever a time when you were building all of this as a group that you're just like, oh God, this is totally not worth it? Did you ever feel that moment that you're like, maybe I need to be a character at Disneyland?
No, because my brothers, Will and Apple, always pushed me.
Okay.
We pushed each other, our belief.
So how did you do that? Because I
I'm
think
gonna be honest
people
with you
need to
guys,
know this.
ladies and
this is
gentlemen.
what
Check
it's
this
about.
out.
Yeah.
So we took a break in 2011, right? This is honest truth. Took a break in 2011. We went on hiatus. We didn't know what was gonna happen with Black Eyed Peas, right?
Okay.
I get hit with cancer in 2014. So we're gone from 2011 until 2019. We're gone. Black Eyed Peas
Wow.
doesn't even exist anymore, right? That's suicide in pop culture.
Yes.
That is suicide.
Just 2 years, this could be suicide.
Right? The biggest band in the world is gone.
Right.
They're done. 2011 is the last time we performed. And then we come back in 2019 with a song called Ritmo with J Balvin off the Bad Boys 3 soundtrack. Right? We had got dropped from our label because they're like, Black Eyed Peas is done. We got
That's
dropped.
incredible.
And then guess what? We hit them with Ritmo. And guess what? That's the first song to go 1 billion views on YouTube from the Black Eyed Peas brand. Not even I Got a Feeling of Where's the Love has done that. So for us, we're like, oh wow, we just injected a new lease on life professionally, right? Then we put out Mamacita, which is our second single off of that record, Translation. That blows up, goes to number one. And then the pandemic hits. So we're not able to tour that record. So although we had success with our singles, we released Mamacita with Ozuna, we released Ritmo with J Balvin, and then we released Girl Like Me with Shakira. Shakira,
Love it.
and that thing blows up. Mega smash, right? But we can't tour it. So then we come back again with the new project in 2022, which is this year. We got a song called Don't You Worry with Shakira and David Guetta. This thing blows up around the world because we're touring the world now. That's all we need is the world. We don't,
That's
the
it.
US is always last for us. We've never been a US act. We are a world band. So we're doing all this amazing touring. Don't You Worry gets all these accolades. It's like the reinvention of Black Eyed Peas in 2022. Me, Will, and Apple are touring. We're having a great time. And we're putting out a new record coming out soon. We have a new single dropping October 28th, which is amazing. And we're just excited to be back on the map, touring, doing what we did since we were teenagers.
It's quite a ride.
Oh, it's an amazing ride. And we're still going, ladies and gentlemen.
Seriously.
We're still going.
I mean, when you think about where you came from and then all of the building, and then pretty big success,
Yeah, yeah.
and then a drop
A
off.
drop off.
Like,
Boom.
drop
Dead.
off
You guys
the
are
map,
done.
right?
You'll never come back.
Right?
Yep.
But then, not only do you come back, you come back with a freaking
Yeah.
vengeance.
Vengeance, yeah.
I mean, it's not like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
well we're,
Yeah.
So that's incredible. What do you attest that to? What do you think?
Our friendship, our brotherhood.
Okay.
You know, yeah, we've had our moments where it's kind of like, uncertainty.
Of course.
Not ever doubt, but uncertainty, because we got dropped. But Will's always like, nah, we'll figure it out. Apple's like, nah, we'll figure it out.
Where do you get that creativity, though? I mean, to take it to the next level, to
Because
even be
it's
better
us
than
three.
what you
It's
were.
us three in the studio. It's always been like that. Every single song that we've put out, whether it's a female vocalist, we write those songs.
Okay, so what's your process in the studio?
We are like magicians and scientists in the studio, creating, writing. Will's doing all the female parts, singing these female parts.
Okay.
You know, he has like this crazy library of all the female parts that we've done in Black Eyed Peas, and it's him singing them,
Okay.
so that we could present them to whoever featured artist or whatever female singing with us, so that we know we are the ones that create the magic. You know, and that's the beauty, is that we've been very honest about our brotherhood and our friendship, because that's what keeps us together. Is before we had any success, when we were struggling and we were eating noodles and working at Disneyland, it was me, Will, and Apple that were struggling. No one else. We fought the fire. And in 2022, it's me, Will, and Apple.
And have you changed, do you think? I mean, things change, your lifestyle changes, you get nicer kicks than you got before. And I mean, we all hopefully,
We've changed for the better.
But I mean, do you feel like you're, as a person, meaning like the person that you are? Because, people are always like, oh, when I interview people, oh, you're going to interview somebody really
Yeah.
famous. Are you nervous? I'm like, no, we're all people. But some people don't feel that way.
I surrendered ego, which I used to have a long time ago. Many years I had ego and bravado that was blocking humility, vulnerability, humanity, and surrendering, all the exterior that is ego. When I was battling for my life, laying there saying, Creator, please give me one more chance, I felt like my career is not saving me. Being part of a group's not saving me. So all that, like, you're the best, your music's awesome, all that stuff was thrown out the window, because now it's me versus mortality. And so I surrendered that. And that's why I'm so vulnerable and very candid and open. I'm an open book. I'm able to share the wins and the losses, the flaws and the moments of clarity, the imperfections, but also the victories, because I have a lot of imperfections and a lot of mistakes and a lot of flaws, which are great because you learn from those things and you're able to better yourself and get a better version of what you were in the past.
And you're also able to really reach people in a real way,
Yeah.
because people are now saying, my hero, the person that I just looked up to, is a real person.
Oh, yeah, no
and
doubt.
now I can say,
Yeah.
I'm a real person,
Yeah.
so maybe I could do great things
Well,
too.
I love that. I love being able to connect with people on a very, very, what do you call it, like leveled playing field. Because I love the idea that I went through addiction. Because I had to come out of it to be able to give people hope
Yep.
that are struggling with addiction, right? If I could do it, you could do it. I'm glad that I went through my trauma as a cancer patient, because now I can help others and families that have gone through it and kids.
Right, because you've walked in those shoes.
I've walked in those shoes, and it's okay. Like, I'll take it, because out of all my friends, I'm the one that went through it, so I don't want my friends to go through it, right?
Right.
I went through it. I want to speak on prevention, ways to prevent it, ways to have conversations. Please check yourself. Men, a lot of men, we overlook our situations.
Right.
And we try to, like, oh, I got a bump right here, I'm just gonna put some Vicks vapor rub and it's all good, but it's a tumor. You don't know it's a tumor. I did the same thing. Oh, my back is hurting. Oh, it's just because I'm touring. It's nothing. And it was my tumor that was growing.
Holy shit.
So listen to your body, ladies and gentlemen. You could prevent it. And that's what I'm saying is like a lot of times our ego and our pride is telling us, don't go to the doctor. You need to go to the doctor.
Good advice.
You know, we don't.
That's why we have a doctor. So I'm going to ask you this one, kind of one, wrap it up, because I don't know how we're going to cut this. It's just so good, right?
Yeah.
So many layers. So you have kids, and
I have an amazing wife, by the way.
Okay.
Props to my wife because she was with me when I went through my crazy dark times as an addict, and my sober life, and my cancer experience, and the wins and the losses of touring and not knowing if Black Eyed Peas was going to surface again. It's just all these things. My wife has been a rock in my life, the matriarch, as my grandmother was as a kid. And now we're teaching that to our daughters, how to be powerful, resilient, strength, the rock. And so I had to salute my wife.
I already knew. I was just like, when I see a good man, I always know there's a good woman behind him.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I got to give props to my
But
wife.
that's because we're from a matriarchal society,
exactly.
right? We kind of rule the roost. So, with your kids, and I know that obviously with your book, you're making sure that they understand their roots as Native people. But so I always like to project out, like, 100 years from now, we're not here anymore. We're with your grandma.
Yes.
Probably
transitioning.
Yeah, we're with her in the spirit world. What do you want people to look back at? Like, if you've done so many things so far, and I know you're going to do a lot more, but when, like you just talked about, removing ego, when it all boils down and distills to who we actually are and what we've done as Native Indigenous people, because we are really affecting this planet, I feel like, in a way that's so powerful. What do you want people to think about when they think about you?
That's a great question. I've never really thought about it because I'm just in the moment.
I know, but you can still be in the moment and think about, because it really...
100 years from now?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay, what I want people to think of me. Man, I want people to think how I affected change. Not just through music, my advocacy, activism, being a voice, being a great relative, role model, being a soundboard, being a advocate for changing the narrative, because that's really what I'm doing.
Right.
It's like what's in the past, and Hollywood in the past is no longer that conversation. Now we have Rutherford Falls, and we have Res Dogs, and we have, Spirit Rangers, and we have Prey. We have all these heroes that are being championed that are modern, not some throwback stereotype from the past.
Right.
But that's what I'm trying to bring too. I bring my own version of that. We have so many relatives that are championing that idea and affecting change in their own right and changing that conversation. And if I can do that and contribute to that, that's the conversation I want to be a part of. Not just like, oh, he left a catalog of music. No. I want to leave a legacy for my kids to be inspired by. And I want to leave a legacy that kids around the world will be inspired by.
Beautifully said. I think that's it.
Spider-Man.
All right.
Oh.
We referenced the third book.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, let's
Hey,
talk
there
about
it
that.
is.
Sorry, I just
Thank
got
you for
so
remembering.
excited about you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
who you are as a person.
Yep.
And this is obviously part of it. But yeah, let's talk about that.
Cool. Man, so first of all, as a fan of Spider-Man, it was a blessing that our editor-in-chief, CB, was like, hey, we have the opportunity for you to have carte blanche with this. So I got with Nick Lowe, who is the editor of Spider-Man, and I started brainstorming along with my partner, B. Earl. Salute to B. Earl, the genius, the amazing creative driving force. Prior to even being a partner with me, like, he's just a genius, and I'm proud to be in a partnership with him creatively and writing wise. We started brainstorming on how we could make it different. So we made it different in the sense that we brought Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, out of New York, and we brought him to my hometown where I'm living in Pasadena, California. How do we make it different? Well, instead of it being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, let's make it the deadly neighborhood Spider-Man. more of like paying homage to our roots as horror flick fans. We love Freddy Krueger
Right.
and Michael Myers and Clive Barker and Toby Hopper and Wes Craven movies from the 80s. So we wanted to make it a little bit darker, something different that people haven't seen, because everybody's always like, oh, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Not in this book. In this book's a little darker version, and we also brought the Demon Bear from the X-Men universe to be part of this conversation in this amazing story. And the reason why we chose Demon Bear, I love to say, because in my backyard, in the city of Pasadena, bears roam in our backyard. And they're protected by the city, so they're tagged, because that's their neighborhood. That's their land. Before we put real estate on this Pasadena land, there was bears and coyotes and all this animal wildlife living there. So they're still roaming the city. They're protected by the city
That's
of
awesome.
Pasadena. So I was like, oh, there's bears in my backyard. Let's bring the Demon Bear, right? And then another great thing was we got to represent and bring in two native inspirations who are relatives and big relatives of mine. Number one, Crystal Echohawk from Illuminative. I put a character named Crystal that was, it is solely a nod and a paying homage to Crystal
I
and all
love
her
Crystal.
work. Yeah, all her
Hey,
work.
Crystal.
All the work that she's done. So I brought Crystal into Spider-Man, and she's like partnered up with Peter Parker. And then I also brought Bird, who is this character is dedicated to Bird Running Water, who's an amazing relative. He's an inspiration to all of us, and he's done a lot of great work for Indian country. So I always bring native relatives from Indian country to be part of the book. Like, for example, Werewolf by Night, I brought Vince Schilling and Dolores Schilling from Indian country today to be part of this book, and I also brought J.C. Shelton, who is a Hopi relative, to bring in the Hopi representation. The second book, I brought in an Apache relative named Tony Duncan, who's a hoop dancer. And I also brought Kenneth Shirley, who's Navajo from Indigenous Enterprises, to be part of that book. So every time I get an opportunity with Marvel, I always bring Heroes Without Capes to be represented and give a genuine, authentic voice to Indian country.
Well, the thing that's really cool about that is you're also including people. This is like, in a way, it's becoming kind of a historic document too, because you're creating
Yeah.
it, but then you're also bringing in all of these people that are living now, native,
Yes.
indigenous
Yes.
people that are here, that a lot of people would probably never know who are these people, but we know who they
Yes.
are because they're part of our community.
Yep.
And we see all the great things that they're doing.
Yeah, so I always try to champion it. Like I said, I have a huge megaphone. Now I have a huge platform with Marvel. And
Right.
Marvel loves what we bring as Indigenous voices. That's why we created the Indigenous voices along with Jeffrey Veregi and all these relatives that were represented. And it's something that's powerful. And my grandmother would be so proud that we're utilizing Marvel, the family, the Disney family, that I started with.
I saw that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I started with Disney. I used to pick up trash for Disney. Now I'm writing Marvel comics for Disney.
So I think that your story, I mean, there's so many things we're going to have to, this is going to be a hard edit for sure. 'Cause There's so many different, like, which way do we go with this guy? I mean, you're kind of, you're kind
Making
of like,
grandmas in there.
I always say Native people, we have to have at least 5 different hustles. I don't know, because we've got all that
Yeah, no
creativity,
doubt.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're always bringing it out. But I think you are one of those people that not only is your grandma proud, we're all proud.
Thank you.
Because you are on that platform and you are representing all of us.
Love that.
And it's a huge responsibility.
I welcome that.
But you know what? You are definitely, I think, showing that next generation that you're living life in full color, not a black and white relic, speaking in,
Yeah.
monosyllables,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
But also you're involved in all these different places. You're taking space. And I always say, land back to me is not just the physical land back, but it's the fact that we have been pushed out of every area. And you are now saying, guess what? The Indians are here.
What's beautiful, speaking about that, what's beautiful is 5 years we abolished Christopher Columbus Day here in the city of Los Angeles, Tongva Land. and I was part of the celebration along with these amazing relatives, Redbone, Pat Vegas,
Yeah.
and PJ Vegas, and all these relatives and allies from the city of Los Angeles to bring Indigenous Peoples Day, the celebration, and just the acknowledgement. We brought it 5 years ago, and then we actually had the event on Monday. What day is it today? Last week. Last week we
Monday,
had,
right?
on the 10th, we had Indigenous Peoples Day for the 5th year. Although we couldn't do it in 2020 because of the pandemic in 2021, we were able to pick up where we left off in 2019. And it's a blessing to be part of that, that circle, the good medicine, the what is it called? The circle of change.
Yeah, and the medicine wheel.
And the medicine wheel, that's what I was trying to say. The medicine wheel, in the 4 directions. And the fact that we brought that to Los Angeles, my hometown, Tongbaland, like that was huge because we were part of that conversation.
Yes.
When I'd say affecting change, we abolished Christopher Columbus Day and we were there. We were there honoring, celebrating the first people of this land, and we did it. And we stood in solidarity, and it was the most beautiful, rewarding, and humbling experience. Because it's like, yo, I'm in my city. Even though my grandmother never championed LA, I'm championing my city, Los Angeles.
You're championing the whole world.
Wow. Say it again.
Yes, you are championing the whole world.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it.
One world.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Cut.
Hey.